She had always dreamed of joining the unit. Ever since she was a teenager, she had imagined herself in situations where she could test her courage, rely on her skills, and make a difference when it mattered most. Now, years later, she stood in the small, dimly lit armory of the base, the smell of gun oil and metal heavy in the air. She ran her fingers over the rifles lined up neatly on the racks, each one polished and ready, a promise of power and responsibility. Today was different. Today, she had been assigned to a critical mission, one that required her to be at the top of her game. She could feel the weight of it on her shoulders, and yet a sense of pride, mixed with nervous excitement, bubbled in her chest. Her commanding officer had briefed the squad early that morning. It was not a routine exercise. This mission carried a real risk, and every member had been chosen for their skill and reliability. She had trained for this, practiced scenarios countless times, and memorized every protocol. Still, nothing could quite prepare her for the moment when she would be standing in the field, responsible not only for herself, but for the lives of her teammates. She approached her assigned rifle, noting its sleek design and familiar weight. As she lifted it from the rack, her eyes immediately caught a small detail that made her stomach drop. The bolt seemed slightly off, not moving as smoothly as it should. She pressed the trigger gently, testing it, and it jammed. Her heart sank. She tried again, hoping it was just a minor hiccup, but the problem persisted. The safety catch also felt loose, not clicking firmly as it should. A sinking feeling began to grow inside her. This rifle was faulty. She knew that in a mission like this, even a single misfire could be disastrous. She looked around the armory, noticing other members of her squad testing their own weapons, confident and calm. She wanted to call attention to the problem immediately, but she hesitated. Remembering the officer's words, "We have limited resources. You might have to make do with what you have." She took a deep breath and approached the armory technician. "I think there's something wrong with this rifle," she said quietly, holding it out for inspection. The technician glanced at it quickly, nodding, but then shook his head. "We don't have a replacement ready right now. You'll have to take it as is." Her mind raced. She had trained for every scenario, but she had never imagined being sent into a critical mission with a weapon that might fail at any moment. She weighed her options. Refusing the rifle was not an option. The mission would proceed with or without her. The only choice she had was to adapt to make the best of what she was given. As she strapped on her gear, she couldn't help but notice the confidence in the eyes of her teammates. They were unaware of her dilemma, focused on their own preparations. She wanted to warn them, to tell them that she might not perform as expected, but she knew it would only distract them. She swallowed her fear, telling herself that she could manage, that she could find a way to make this rifle work when it mattered most. The squad gathered outside, the morning sun casting long shadows across the training ground. Their vehicles were loaded, communication devices checked, and maps reviewed one last time. The atmosphere was tense, but determined. She felt her pulse quicken, the anticipation almost unbearable. Every story she had heard about missions gone wrong flashed in her mind, but she pushed the thoughts aside. She was trained for this, and she refused to let fear control her as they boarded the vehicles. She found herself sitting next to a teammate she had trained with for years. He gave her a reassuring nod, completely unaware of the struggle she was facing with her rifle. She smiled faintly, grateful for the gesture, and reminded herself that her focus needed to be absolute. Any hesitation, any mistake, could cost them dearly. The journey to the mission site was silent, the hum of the engine filling the gaps where words might have been. She stared out the window, watching the terrain pass by, mentally preparing for what awaited them. She ran through every step of the mission in her mind, visualizing each moment, each decision. The rifle was heavy against her shoulder, and she could feel the flaw in its mechanism with every slight adjustment. It was a constant reminder of the risk she carried. When they arrived, the squad disembarked quickly and efficiently. The mission site was exactly as briefed: challenging terrain, limited cover, and potential threats in every direction. She adjusted her grip on the rifle, testing it once more. It jammed again. Frustration flared, but she pushed it down, refusing to let panic take over. She reminded herself that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. The squad moved out in formation, each member scanning the surroundings, alert to the slightest movement or sound. She stayed close to her team, moving with precision, careful not to let the faulty rifles slow her down. Every step, every moment was measured, calculated. She found herself focusing not on the weapon's weakness, but on her own abilities, her training, her instincts, her capacity to improvise. They reached the first checkpoint without incident, and she allowed herself a brief moment of relief. The rifle had not failed yet, and she had managed to keep her confidence intact. She knew, however, that the true test was still ahead. The real challenge would come when the unexpected occurred, when the rifle's flaw might be the difference between success and failure. During a short break, she examined the rifle more closely, noting every imperfection, every potential point of failure. She adjusted the parts as best she could, improvising small fixes, using her experience to compensate for the machine's weaknesses. It was not perfect, but it was better than leaving it as it was. She realized that her success would depend not on the weapon, but on her ability to think quickly and adapt under pressure. Her thoughts wandered briefly to her family, to the people who had supported her through years of training, who had believed in her even when she doubted herself. She drew strength from that, letting it fuel her determination. She was not alone in this mission. She carried with her the hopes and trust of everyone who had stood by her. That thought steadied her nerves, giving her the courage to face what was coming. The squad began moving again, entering more difficult terrain. Every sound, every shadow, heightened her awareness. The faulty rifle was a constant presence in her mind, a challenge she could not ignore. She practiced handling it silently, imagining worst-case scenarios and planning responses. She knew she had to be ready for anything. That hesitation could be fatal. Despite the tension, she also found moments of clarity. She noticed small details others overlooked, a change in the wind, a subtle movement in the trees, the way the sun cast shadows that could conceal danger. Her senses were sharpened by both training and necessity. The rifle might be flawed, but her mind was sharp, her instincts reliable. She realized that her strength did not come from the weapon she held, but from herself. Hours passed, and the squad continued their advance. She stayed focused, maintaining her position, adjusting her grip, keeping her finger near the trigger while resisting the urge to panic. She observed her teammates, noting their movements, their communication, their reliance on one another. She felt a sense of camaraderie, a bond strengthened by shared purpose and mutual trust. She could not afford to let them down. As the sun climbed higher, the mission's challenges became more apparent. The terrain grew more treacherous, visibility decreased, and the potential for conflict increased. She felt the weight of responsibility more acutely than ever. The rifle remained imperfect, but she reminded herself that it was only one tool among many. Her skill, her adaptability, and her courage were what truly mattered. By the end of the day, she had survived the first phase of the mission, proving to herself that she could manage the rifle despite its flaws. The relief was brief, however, as she knew the true test was still ahead. The faulty rifle had taught her a lesson in resilience, in ingenuity, and in relying on herself when the tools at her disposal were inadequate. She felt a quiet pride in her ability to persevere, knowing that she had faced fear and uncertainty with determination. As the squad set up a temporary camp, she took a moment to reflect on the day. She checked her rifle once more, noting the persistent flaws, but also acknowledging the ways she had learned to work around them. She realized that the experience had strengthened her in ways she had not expected. Fear had been transformed into focus, doubt into determination, and a broken weapon into a test of her true capability. The night settled in, and the squad prepared for rest, aware that the next phase of the mission would demand even more. She lay awake for a while, thinking about the challenges ahead, planning her approach, and mentally rehearsing every possible scenario. The rifle was still faulty, but she was ready. She had learned that courage was not defined by the tools one held, but by the choices one made when faced with adversity. She drifted into a light sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also new opportunities to prove herself. She had survived the first day, and in doing so, had discovered something far more valuable than a flawless weapon. She had discovered her own strength, resilience, and the unwavering determination that would carry her through whatever lay ahead.